thanks very much for being here. Tack så mycket för att vara här. We're gonna speak English since the presentation is in English, and I'm working for a European public agency that is actually based in Czech Republic, in Prague. I'm based in Sweden, Västra Götaland, and I am gonna be talking about space technology, startups, innovation, and the connection between. I'm gonna go back and forth to click on my computer because I guess it's all right. So, to all of you who are present here in this intimate discussion, I have a question for you. What comes to mind when you think about space industry? Yes, please. Oh, by the way, I'm Désiré, and you are?
I'm Michel.
Michel. Thanks, Michel, for the question.
No, I'm thinking about, well, the moon, asteroids, Mars.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. Mars, asteroid, the moons. Do you think also about something like this?
Well, I've seen that one, yeah.
Oh, do you know where it is, right?
Yeah, it's a Tesla in space.
Absolutely. That's one of the most famous images that we've got from space. And thanks to that image and many others, there has been a lot of interest and traction around space, technology, business, exploration, from the moment we actually landed on the moon many, many years ago to the moment now we're landing through a rover on Mars. And this has actually revived some interest. But that's not all. There is the upstream segment of space technology that we know and hear, that makes us dream. The spacecraft, the exploration, the moon, and so on. But there is also a downstream segment. And that's what I'm going to be talking about here today. The downstream segment is basically what connects the information, for example, that we're fetching from the satellite data or the spacecraft to the ground station, spread to the users, the people on Earth. Therefore, upstream, ground station to spacecraft and beyond, downstream, ground station, Earth, and the application that we're making from satellite data, information, and so on. Do you know that as soon as you have a mobile device in your pocket, or a computer with geolocation and so on, you're actually utilizing satellite data? Does it, for example, when you're using geolocation on an application, when you're trying to navigate to go from point A to point B, you're actually using satellite data because your mobile phone, whether you're setting the geolocation or not, is respectfully, privately tracking down your location and processing the information so that you can be up to date on everything that could be of use depending on the market application that you have. Typically, we have the use of downstream segment, satellite data in downstream segment, like the maritime industry, of course, everything that leverage on position, navigation, timing, PNT. This is basically used in when you take your car, your bicycle, and you want to find your way, when you're lost at sea or in situation of risk, and you want to be located quicker, safer, and many more. Healthcare, financial industry, and so on. So as soon as you have your mobile device and that you're connected in a way or another through satellite, you're actually using some of the technologies that we'll be discussing. It's part of our life. Digital health, for example, transportation, mobility, smart mobility today that we were talking a lot about. Autonomous driving. There is a big focus on autonomous driving at the moment because we know that the future of mobility is going to become autonomous. At least that's what the trends are showing. And space technology is also a big enabler of that. You can combine, by the way, space technology to other complementary emerging technologies that I'll be presenting later on artificial intelligence, blockchain, quantum computing, and so on, and IoT, obviously, Internet of Things. But let me show you a quick video. I mean, it's like 2-3 minutes, but I think it might be interesting.
Satellite positioning has become a vital part of our everyday lives and is a key for farming, science, precise timing, and emergency response. We use it in our phones, cars, planes, trains, ships, and thousands of other applications. Initially, it was powered by an American system, GPS, or Global Positioning System. A few years later, a Russian system, GLONASS, was introduced. In 2016, Galileo, the European Global Navigation System, launched its initial services. So what is Galileo, and what makes it different from other constellations? Galileo is a European, state-of-the-art system that provides highly accurate, guaranteed global positioning and super-precise timing. Once fully deployed, Galileo will consist of 24 operational satellites and 6 in-orbit spares, 23,000 kilometers above the Earth, supported by a range of terrestrial sensor stations and control centers around the world. Galileo is autonomous, but also interoperable with existing satellite navigation systems, and many devices combine 2 or 3 constellations to increase accuracy and reliability. While it can work with other systems, Galileo is unique. First of all, it's European and under civilian control. All other systems are operated by the military, so it provides Europe and European citizens with independence and sovereignty. Galileo also provides a range of new services, including search and rescue, PRS, a secure service for government applications, and a more precise positioning for commercial applications. By offering dual frequencies as standard, Galileo will in fact deliver new levels of real-time positioning accuracy and substantially improve availability of the service under the most extreme circumstances. By deploying Galileo, Europe also minimizes the risk of other navigation systems being switched off or degraded. Galileo is the result of unprecedented European cooperation and innovation to offer people across the globe a new, reliable, independent civilian navigation and timing system that will power limitless applications.
All right. Something I want to touch upon about this video. First of all, when we hear GPS, we assume that everything is about GPS, but this actually is highlighting the fact that there are actually 4 different global navigation satellite systems. You have GPS, the American one, which actually historically is military, and technically speaking, even though they're upgrading the technology, has so far lower accuracy for the free service than Galileo, the European version, has. For example, when you're showing on your map where you're located or when you want to go to a destination, you often experience a lag or difference in terms of where you're actually at based, and sometimes it shows that you're 4 or 5 meters plus or minus your position. This is actually the accuracy errors that the system is increasingly having, which is okay on day-to-day life. I mean, if I want to go to a place, it doesn't matter whether there is 4 or 5 meters difference as long as I get in the building, or if I am driving, 4 or 5 meters is not such of a big deal. But imagine that you're lost somewhere, and that instead of finding you where you're supposed to be, then people will keep on looking around, expecting you to actually be where you're actually not. That's this accuracy that is a differentiator of Galileo. You have also 2 others, GLONASS and Beidou, which are respectively the Russian and the Chinese ones. And each of these different global navigation systems are actually constellations. They are composed of multiple satellites. And when you are using position, navigation, and timing on your mobile phone, you're not using it directly. Actually, the device itself does the computation. But what it does is that actually uses multiple satellites to geolocate you. And it also corrects the error of the positioning, either at the hardware level, so the device you're using and the receiver, and or, of course, for better accuracy, at the code level. But I won't dive into details here because this is not a technical presentation I want to highlight, but I want actually to show you how, in practice, we are already using satellite technologies beyond the spacecraft and the exploration of Mars on Earth through innovators and entrepreneurs like those we are working with. Yes?
Someone online asked, can we get the PowerPoint that is showed? Can we send it to them afterwards?
I can share it, yes. PowerPoint, I need to ask first to my employer, but at least the PDF, absolutely. So that will be fine, because what we want to do here is really to present what are different services and technology that exist, because we realize that most people haven't heard about the European Agency for the Space Program, previously known as GSA, and they haven't heard either about the different GNSS that exist. We know about GPS, everything's about GPS, but what we're trying to do here, and that's why I need you actually to spread the words, is to increase the awareness about the European version of the navigation, the global navigation satellite systems, so Galileo, because the more devices are using it, the more markets and applications are actually leveraged, and this will hopefully in the near future become ubiquitously part of our life. Currently, the market share of GPS is the biggest, but we hope with better services, better offering, a focus and attention on the user, to have more people using this system actually that is yours. It's publicly funded, it's civilian, and it's free of access. Yes?
So, to access that, so for example, the current...
Yeah.
Hey, Désiré, this is Ashish.
Yes, Ashish, thanks.
Is it currently, how do you access it, for example? Is, for example, any current navigation tools or software, Google Maps, Apple Maps, currently I think are based off of GPS and not the European one. But for example, if I want to build something or if I want to use something that uses the European constellation, how do I go about that?
Well, that's a
is
very
it
good
available
question.
as a free of use and through a software?
That's a very good question. Though, just to clarify, I'm not expert in the receiver and technology as per se, even though I know a bit. I can at least answer that. Today's devices are actually switching, without you even noticing it, from GPS, Galileo, GLONASS, Beidou, and so on, based on where you're based on device you're using and how strong is your receiver, and also maybe the need of error correction. So, therefore, you as a user, customer, citizen, don't really care whether you're running on GPS, Galileo, and so on. What you want is the best precision. If it's for personal use, you also want to have maybe the cheapest or the best, the fastest technology available for your business. If you're running mobility company or if you're running digital healthcare company and you need to have this positioning navigation as part of your offering, you don't really care what you'll be using. What you want is to have the best service, and often, ideally, for the least amount of money. But there is a threshold, though, a trade-off. If you want the most accurate service, obviously, you need to be ready also to pay for it. But the good thing is that most services or needs don't really need the sub-decimeters accuracy. Sub-decimeters, in order of centimeters, is very good accuracy. And most of us, for our personal, private use, don't really need this much. But businesses that need to have exactly or as exact as possible positioning leverage on that by first having developers in their team, technical people who can actually go and access the code, often available online, or with the help of the organization I'm working with, we can actually help you as an entrepreneur to leverage the code, the technology, the receivers, and the equipment necessary so that you can build your product and deliver the best service to your customers. You mentioned Google Map, Apple Map, and so on. These are products and services. So the customer doesn't care how they're powered, but they care about what they can do with it. So for us in Europe, and the rest of the world to have the possibility to have such services that deliver the best to their users. Then we need also to leverage technologies that are available, and ideally that are also built with local specificities. The goal is not to replace Google Maps. It's not possible, and there is no interest in that. But there are many other businesses and news that maybe are unexplored at the moment that could benefit from this technology. And that's the effort we're trying to do here, to raise awareness and to make that more entrepreneurs know that there is an alternative in terms of accuracy, in terms of cost, in terms of free available services, a service that is civilian, that is open, and can be complemented also with something called Earth observation that I haven't spoken yet much, but which is actually quite an exciting topic now. It's quite... here in the audience has heard about Earth observation and Copernicus. Typically satellite image data.
Heard about it.
All right.
Things like emission tracking, for example, in the energy world, we do that through Earth observation data. Yeah, so, but very limited information that I have about it.
You know, actually, it's quite good to have you in the audience, indeed, because there is a very exciting case that I read 1 or 2 years ago about the way satellite images were used in the energy sector. Typically, I think it's a trading company or something like that. They've used satellite images to map out the tanks of oil and gas all around the world, and by applying, adding a layer of machine learning, deep learning analysis on top of that, they could estimate how much content is in the tank and predictively calculate the rates and trades, the need in terms of oil and gas in the future, and definitely influencing the trading and the stock markets. Whether this is more or not is not my point here, but it just shows how exciting it is when you know how to use these different technologies, and you just don't put all your eggs in one basket, but you use AI, satellite images, and maybe also geolocation through satellite and so on, to deliver a service that is unseen until today.
The two big applications, Désiré, I'm aware of that uses Earth observation satellites in the global warming era is, from an environmental sense, methane is a gas that is very dangerous for the global warming, which is actually more dangerous than CO2.
Absolutely.
Everybody talks about CO2. So there is specific methane observation and monitoring that is happening. It's a UN charter. So there is a UN, United Nations program called United Nations Methane Program, UNMP.
Yeah.
And it is specifically for tracking and being able to monitor and reduce methane emissions. There is something very similar for tracking tree cover over countries. So Earth observation is probably one of the central technologies now coming up for global warming monitoring.
Absolutely. The timing is right, I think. This has been existing for many years, but my bad, our bad, maybe we didn't promote it enough or with different channels. But the fact is that the technology maybe at first was not really that focused on the user experience and user interface. We've all seen movies 10 years ago and beyond where you can actually be tracked you're at your place from satellite images from whatever governmental agency, and then you gotta run because everyone is chasing you and so on. So we know these movies. You can now as well. You could actually.
Agencies are doing that as we speak.
Of course, you know. But what is quite exciting, and that's another debate, of course, is how little we do care about our data privacy and security. But that's not their debate. But what? Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Observation satellites. The Earth observation satellites, is that part of the European Space Agency services
Yes.
that are currently being provided?
So, European Agency of the Space Program is a public organization. Actually, reporting to European Commission. And we have now the mandate also, beside Galileo GNSS, of the Earth observation markets, but for the market development part and beyond. Meaning you still have Copernicus, which is the program. These are complex structures, and I personally don't know how complex they are myself. I just know that my job, part of my job, is to help our team to find, use, and develop the markets around Earth observation and its use and application in our day-to-day life. We basically want to link satellite data to user needs. Therefore, we have a strong focus on the users, the customers, the application on day-to-day life. And we use ambassadors or enablers like entrepreneurs, private companies, small, medium, and large companies to solve people's problem, so that if you love what they're doing, then you will then refer to friends and families and beyond. That's how you grow markets. Earth observation was initially used mostly in academics, governmental use, and so on. Now with climate change, environmental friendly solutions that are needed for tackling very challenging situations. You mentioned the methane. Actually, 3 years ago, I was in a hackathon where we've been, no, 2 years ago, I think, 3 years, I don't remember, in Finland, where we were asked to find solutions, technological solutions, to reduce the methane emitted by cows. Because we think a lot about CO2s, but actually the methane from cows is one of the highest. I love cows, both the milk and the food and so on, even though I'm trying to reduce my meat consumption. But that's not the point here. The point here is that, and I come from a culture also, in Rwanda, for example, where cows are a cultural symbol of success and prosperity. So cows are very important. However, they emit methane. And you know what I'm talking about also. They emit methane, and the goal is not to remove all the cows from the surface of Earth. Absolutely not. But it's to you cannot count. You cannot take actionable decisions if you don't measure it, if you don't count it, if you don't see what is wrong. You need to do a proper diagnostic, and for that, it takes more than just assuming, estimating. Using technologies that are available, often for free or low cost, can enable you to map out the methane level and the location of this level. It can help you, for example, to map out the deforestation level. Can help you to map out population, urbanization, and so on. So this is a topic that I'm very excited about, and I'm trying to dive in deeper and know more about Earth observation at the moment, and how AI, specifically machine learning, deep learning, can implement and enhance it, because combined with satellite data from GNSS, you get best of both worlds. You can actually, innovation, as someone said once, is when creativity and diversity meets. Diversity of people, but diversity also of technological sources. So you've got to be creative and think out of the box, and coming up with solutions that don't reinvent the wheel, because everything is there. It's just about trying to put them together in different shapes and forms. Some startups that we've been working with in the previous cohort of our program called My Galileo Solution, but we also have My Galileo Drone, and we also, some years ago, had My Galileo app, and now we have a new competition challenge program called My EUSPA that I'll be talking about pretty soon. These ones, they've identified a problem that I don't even know existed, which is, when you go to parking, there are lines on the grounds, and I never thought about how did these lines actually came to the ground, but obviously someone had to do it. Some people with a machine, or sometimes even manually, do it. It takes time. It's exhaustive. It's a difficult job, even if you do it with a machine, and it's redundant. While we're talking here about reskilling, upskilling, maybe some of these people doing this job could benefit from, working hand in hand with a machine, autonomous robots, that could do it while they become robot operator. The same way we've had drones that came to the market, and then we have jobs that appear like drone operator. This could be the kind of upskilling or reskilling we could have in the market. It doesn't mean getting rid of the workforce. It means actually keeping the workforce if you can afford it, and having that workforce, learn things that are of added value. And that is what this team is trying to do. They're based in Estonia. They've got now a very interesting round of about 700k euros. I can disclose these numbers because they've published it. And they are now trying to close a round of 1 million euros, total. So they are successful in the sense that they've identified a problem that was there, and there is niche markets, and they use technologies that people are thinking typically for more advanced, complex problematics, and showing that you don't need to go that far actually to use technology. And if you have in your team the subject matter expertise, and you know very much your customer, because one of the co-founders is actually into that business, and you know how to pitch and how to present to investors and write term sheet and so on, then you actually can have a thriving business that I believe has the potential to scale, not just Europe-wide, but globally. This startup is also using GNSS. By the way, the previous startup used GNSS in the precision of the robots, because they couldn't just deal with meter error. They couldn't deal with decimeters error. They needed sub-decimeters error. And then you have different corrections, error corrections that are applied, and that's why it was relevant to have the best technology that there is, which was Galileo. Here, this one, it's a Swiss startup that is using VR headsets for helping engineers, technicians in the railway, transport, and so on, to work in a safe and secure manner by making sure that they actually can perform their task in a virtual environment prior to doing it on the ground, and or also having the different infrastructure that is digitized, modeled on their application, and that is visual on the VR headset, or also on tablets. By the way, they have worked on a tablet shape, so you're not bound anymore just to the device. Because those who are in startup entrepreneurship knows that you don't want to have your solution being dependent on someone else's innovation. You can start for your prototype and MVP, but as soon as you start validating your model and getting some funding, you need ASAP to find a solution that will give you the autonomy, so that if tomorrow your VR headset provider or manufacturer and so on decide to just simply stop working with you, you actually have thought about it and you have different ways to reach your customers. They've innovated in that sector, which is luckily or sadly a slow-paced, innovative environment. Building, construction, transport is innovating, but at a slower pace. And because they have the expertise on that sector, and they knew already what were the pains that the customers were facing, they could come in with a technology that is already mature, and adding on top of that higher accuracy, because again, these ones needed some sub-decimeters accuracy, and they could solve a problem that they're still doing. Now they are scaling up, got new rounds of funding, and I believe that they will become one of the most successful company on that sector in the months or years to come. This one has won the Galileo drone competition, and they came up with a solution of not using drone for transporting medicines and blood and so on, because we've seen hundreds of these startups doing that. It's still great innovation, but it's difficult to compete when everyone is doing the same. What they did is actually innovating on the capsule, the container in which the medical goods will be placed. They created a smart capsule that keeps track of the temperature and some other metrics, and keeping the good medical products safe and secured. And they track it so that they will reach the hospital, the clinic, through drones on time and fully with no damages. And they also need high accuracy. They won the competition. And by the way, the level of price we're talking about for some of these competitions is up to 100,000 euros. This one, they won 100K. The previous one was, I think, 60 or 40. So, but we don't disperse it in one time. Otherwise, everyone will just leave as soon as they get the money. No, we provide a comprehensive support from the idea to prototype, MVPs, and commercial solution, depending on how far you're gone in your entrepreneurial cycle. You can apply in track 1, which is from idea to prototype, or track 2, from prototype, MVP, beyond. And at each step of the way, there is a checkpoint where we check how far the proposal, then you can get part of the fund. Then we check the customer journey, validation, we check the business plan, we check the technical relevance, the architecture of your solution. And at every of these points, judged by experts, both technical and business, and through webinars and development program, where we complement you with the skills that you're missing. We make sure that hopefully you will have a thriving ventures when it is over, I mean when the program is finished. But I personally know, because I've been in myself a startup and I'm an entrepreneur, that the journey doesn't stop once you win the hackathon or the competition. It's just the start. So just letting you go with money and say, go run, fly from your own wings, is not gonna be enough. So at least we try to support these entrepreneurs beyond that journey. And now we're even trying to connect them with VCs funds, because it's about creating an ecosystem. You have the innovation, you have the technical aspect, the business aspect. Everyone is also applying lean and human-centered design and so on. But beside that, beyond that, how do you make sure that your innovation can also be connected to investors and private investors? I'm insisting on that because it's not that difficult to get public funds and to go from hackathon to hackathon, incubator to accelerator, getting grants and so on. It has kept many companies alive for a long time. Research project, university spin-offs and so on. Talented people. But what we are still struggling at is finding these first paying customers. That is neither government, public agency, our friends and family. And this is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to have people getting private investments, because if you manage to get a private investors believing in what you do, because you have customers who believe in what you do, then this is at least recipe for a sustainable business. There is also now, at European Commission level, a focus on enabling the continent, the people, to be more environmental friendly. ESG, environmental sustainability and governance, are new metrics that existed already for some years, but they were dealt with carbon credit and so on. So let's put the debate aside. But here, if we can, we're also trying to make sure that the entrepreneurs we're working with are trying to build solutions that are sustainable, technically, business-wise, that are also environmental friendly. At least if I have my say in that and I can influence their choices, I would. And governance also. The governance, the way it is operated, is important. This one, the last one that I wanted to present, we have many. We actually had 80-something participants, 50 selected. The demo day we had about 30 pitch, and the winners, 3 per categories, shared a pool of, I think, almost €1 million. So it was, and now the new competition we have, €1 million to be shared among 50 teams. Teams have to be more than 2 people. Why so much money? By the way, this is your money, my money, this is public money. So we want you to actually being empowered to be part of the journey of these successful entrepreneurs. Because we don't want them just to come up with code that will be hosted on GitHub and say this is our innovation. We don't want them to just come up with a PowerPoint, unless, and in the new competition that's the specificity, they are pitching for quantum technology solution. Because we have a new vertical now that we're trying to enter and develop, which is quantum technology, whether it's quantum optics, quantum information, quantum hardware, quantum software. But we know it's very resource hungry, so we need to give help to the people to not only try out ideas in our competition, but also get funds to at least bring their idea as far as they can in the process. And we know that they cannot build with the fund we'll be providing quantum hardware, but they can build upon the softwares that already exist. They can find new ways of technology to be applied. So for that, we are open to have just presentation and conceptual ideas for the quantum vertical. For the rest, develop as far as you can. This one, a team that I like very much, also from Slovenia, they also thought about a problem that I don't know was a problem, but it's basically who here does sailing, boats and so on? Have you, no? Wow, that's amazing. I mean, I thought that in Sweden everyone was selling boat and, doing, I love it. No, but it's nice. It shows, diversity and unicity among you. I really appreciate that. Well, okay, my bad. I actually got, my wife is into selling and I got to like it as well. I'm just not good at it. Yeah, I have some problem also when I'm on the boat and trying to find balance and so on, but I love swimming. So anyway, bottom line is that I see beautiful stuff, in the selling industry, the selling, the people who are into that area. And we lived in Greece also before, and I didn't realize that among the top 10 problems that sailors are facing is the anchor problem. Typically, when your anchor gets stuck, whether it's at the bottom of the sea or with other boats' anchor, you actually don't know how to deal with that. Either you cut your anchor, but then you're a bit, it's problematic, especially if you're in the middle of the sea, or if how do you keep it grounded, And it damages, of course, the whole experience. So it's quite costly from a small part. Because they are in that industry, they do that themselves, they face the problem, they came up with an idea of building a device, a hardware, which is here. That's the updated version, they upgraded thanks to the fund they received. They run some crowdfunding projects, so on. They got some fund because their idea is it's like blue ocean market. They came there, no one is using advanced technologies, and those who are using satellite data positioning to identify whether your anchor is still at the place where it is, and that it hasn't moved for a few centimeters, plus or minus. And on top of that, enabling you on your mobile device to see your anchor, that it's still there, so that you can go on the harbor and enjoy your nice dinner and your night out, whatever, without worrying that by a windy, rainy night, you'll come up and your boat will be at shore or will be broken, whatever. You're at peace with that. And their solution is simpler in some way than the competition because it just makes sense. Satellite positioning, sub-decimeters, a mobile application that shows you on your mobile phone where it's located, and you are at peace, and your hardware that works with it, and it's way cheaper than competition, which typically is built by big boat manufacturer and big players in that industry. So the typical story of the small startup coming up and trying to completely disrupt the market. And in their case, I think it's even not just disruptive innovation, it's radical innovation. Because the camera part, I don't think that there are many competitors in that field, and their solution can actually be used for other problematics. So they came there so that there was no viable solution that is both cheap and accurate, and they created a new market out of it. Here are a few numbers. I spoke a lot about different competitions we've had, but I just want to give you at least some insight. The My Galileo solution and My Galileo drone had respectively 210 applications, 190 applications. 4 innovation areas. So we're not just assessing it on one innovation area. In innovation area, what do we mean? Can be what we call, let's say, the drone innovation area, or the IoT, mobility, enhanced experience through augmented reality, virtual reality, and so on. So you're just at an equal level, regardless of technology you're leveraging. Development areas, so the market applications, agriculture, healthcare, finance. Did you know that you actually can use satellite data for finance transaction? Yeah. Let me tell you why. When you do a financial transaction, you want to have the timing, accurate timing. Because if your transaction has been done, is not done at an accurate timing, then obviously it kind of messes up the whole transfer and processing of the information and so on. I will say at least on what I do know on the crypto aspect. Crypto transaction is stamped, time-stamped. And it's this time-stamped plus other information that all encrypted enables the transaction to operate. Well, if you don't have an actual accurate timing, then it messes up the whole thing. I'm sorry for the jargon. And position, navigation, timing are part of the data that you actually receive on your mobile device or your hardware device, and that are then processed. You don't have to bother about it, to worry about it. It's just done by the hardware so that it gives you the accurate information for your application to proceed. You have the hardware and the computing processing that is happening, and then you have the application put on top of it that we download on the app stores that we love. And these applications are using this data to then operate and to deliver you services that you want. You don't know that you have this data on your phone, but they are there, and they are then leveraged by these applications. The numbers here show all of the different countries and applications we've had, and this is why I'm here with you. This area here. It's Europe, right? And we would love to all work together, hand in hand, collaborate and share. And I don't know if it's about lack of communication or whatever, but we cannot do targeted marketing campaign per country. Everyone has to be reached equally. But because I'm based in this region, then I'm trying to at least proactively reach out to you and to have spreading the word. It's not just about the money. The money is not the most important. Every entrepreneur who get in that business for money have to rethink their motivation. It's about contributing to, first of all, having a thriving space tech sector beyond the spacecraft, space, and so on. It's also about creating new market or having more local actors on the markets that already exist. And it's about also collaborating. There are many different actors based in Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, and Iceland. I met people in Iceland when I was a few weeks ago at an event in Denmark. I mean, we're all trying to work together or doing things. When you have multiple entities doing activities with their own funding in a siloed way, then you end up having redundancy. And in my jargon of lean expert, it's what we call waste. Waste of resources, waste of time. Even if each of these silos have great expertise, I personally strongly believe that it's by collaborating and sharing that we can actually go farther. I didn't know that before. Thank you, amen. I've been working as a freelance entrepreneur for a little while, and I thought that, working, as we say, there is an African proverb that says that if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. Amen. I hope that this will reach people's ears. But yes, so I would love in the future that we increase these numbers so then there are more innovation. There is such an innovation and activities happening here in this part of the world. I would like it to actually being connected more to what's happening in the rest of Europe. And I think, yes, if you want to know more about the startups that we have in our demo day that came out of this competition, then you can check our YouTube channel, checking Entrepreneurship Demo Day, QR code if you want, but I think we won't have that much time for that. And what I loved also is that we had quite a nice gender balance. Of course, technology speaking is still more men than women, sadly, but we had actually some very good teams with good female founders and engineers, technologists, business people. And I think they all deserve, all of these teams, even those who didn't win our competition, to be looked at because they have their innovations that is now, either frozen somewhere or they're working on it, hoping that they'll get access to the fund or the people who can enable them to go farther. And if you want to know more, we can discuss. I'll definitely introduce them to them and to our team at EUSPA and seeing how to get more of them getting access to the market. The new competition we have that I mentioned earlier, 50+ awards per team of minimum 2 people. with ideally a nice balance of profile, because we want people to not just only the tech part and not the business part only, but very nicely diverse, and quite a nice prize pool to be shared. And it's multiple months. It's not just a weekend hackathon. This is not a hackathon only. It's actually a competition where you propose, you submit your idea among the other different verticals. We have some about environmental and the sustainability solution. We have also mapping, geolocation-based solution. We have for transport, mobility, and so on. And we have also, as I said, the quantum vertical. It's quite new. I know it's very hype at the moment. A lot of people talk about it. Not that many do. I myself dived into it 1 year or so ago. I'm nowhere expert on that, but at least because of my background, I actually know a bit of the physics behind, and it helps me to then complement it with the programming part, understanding a bit how it works. But yeah, we want applicable application for it. I mentioned earlier quickly who I am. I won't talk too much about it, but basically I was born and raised on the African continent, 2 countries, then moved to Europe, studied here, Belgium first, got most of my education, first job there, including working for some of the Fortune 500s, mostly American companies, working very early in English, then decided to become entrepreneur, moved to Sweden through an accelerator where my startup was accepted. Didn't find customers, lived on my savings until there was no savings, then had to find a job, and then here I am trying to help other entrepreneurs knowing what not to do if they want to get faster to sustainable business. About EUSPA, because I want at least to conclude on who we are and what we do. We have 3 programs, EGNOS, Galileo, and Copernicus. We have also one that is focused on governmental communication, because they require different level of safety, security on their communication. And they also enable communication in crisis situation. And we are based in Czech Republic, Prague, where is the headquarters, but they also have offices in France and Spain. And we are then responsible of the security accreditation for the whole EU space program components. The department I'm part of is the market development department. Yeah.
The 3 satellites, the 3 commercializations, yes. Galileo, EGNOS, and
yeah. So
just to give 1 minute.
Yeah. So Galileo is the global navigation satellite system. EGNOS is for the satellite enhancement capability. So it adds an additional layer of accuracy for in sectors like aviation and so on. It's operated already in many airports in Europe. And Copernicus is the Earth observation program. Now, Copernicus is the name of the program, and it does Earth observation, which is basically applying satellite images with a focus on Earth. With these satellite images that are coming from this program, from satellite like Sentinel-1, 2, 3, up to 6, actually, what matters of us to know is that these images can then be collected for free online through 6 different data access providers, and you can download them if you are tech savvy and process them on your device for free, and you can do whatever you want, unless it's for commercial purpose, but then you can still use it for proving the market, validating the business, until you want higher level of data, either accuracy or specific use cases. And then, like in most software as a service, hosted on the cloud, then you reach out to the sales team and then you discuss the details.
So the Sentinel data is free to try right now?
Yes, it is free to try right now.
Is Sentinel data free to try right now?
Absolutely. Through there are 6 data access providers. And based on the needs that you want to make of it, you can choose these data access providers as you want. We can discuss that, or I can refer to a colleague of mine who's our Earth observation expert in the team, and he will be more keen to give you more details. Because yes, you can do that. Most people don't know. I cannot download NASA data that easily or Google Earth data. I actually once tried to get access to Google Earth data, but I couldn't because I'm not an academic entity and whatsoever. Actually, thanks to Copernicus program, for some years now, you can have access to this data for free. But maybe most people don't know it, and which is why I'm here today.
I mean, the power of Sentinel data can be enormous, actually,
Yes.
for new ideas in different areas.
Absolutely. There are
Would
many.
be,
Yeah.
if you do send the PDF, can you include a slide on the six data providers in that?
Yeah.
Just a list of them?
Okay, I can look
They're
at
in their
it.
websites?
I can look it up. Otherwise, I'll just send you an email with the list of them.
That'd be
There are
great.
many presentations where it's more in depth with Copernicus, but I can definitely send you this
That'd be
information
great.
personally.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you send me the information, I'll email it to all of the participants.
Sounds good. Perfect. The programs that I mentioned earlier, just in a nutshell, 10% of the EU GDP comes from GNSS Galileo. More than 360 airports and helipads in 23 countries in Europe are using EGNOS. Copernicus is the #1 world provider of space data and information, mostly accessible for free. And GovSat is for delivering rapid support over crisis areas. And we have some more programs under development. More in details, Copernicus program covers six thematics: maritime, atmosphere, land, climate change, security, and emergency. And the data comes from constellations of Sentinel satellites. I'm glad that thanks to this kind of workshop, we can actually have information that are available, but it's difficult to know where to find it when you don't even know what you're looking for. EGNOS has three points important. I mean, 3 services: open service, safety of life service, and EGNOS data access service as well. Accuracy of submitter, so it's enhancing even the accuracy level of the first level of data you get from the Galileo GNSS. To have deeper and better accuracy, you can complement this with different tools and services. You can do it on the hardware level, as I said, with technologies as we call RTK and so on, but I won't dive into details. You can do it at code level with methods called PPP, PPK, and so on. But long story short, you can play with the different existing solutions to then meet your needs that will then turn into better offering to your user, customer, or even for yourself. And Galileo, that I quite talked a lot already, so I think just covering, we have open services, public related services, search and rescue services. So, search and rescue services that are operating, helping people at sea, at land, in the mountain, and so on, and in the air. High accuracy service coming very soon, that is even higher level of accuracy, also for free. And commercial authentication service. An example that you can actually use with Galileo, on every software or website, you can, for example, enable connection to your user based on their location. If you want users of a specific location to have access to your service, and maybe some others not having access to, you can actually do that using the location, the satellite data positioning. You can have it can be an alternative to the social login plugin that we all have, and that gives or hands our data to private providers. That could be an interesting way to log into an application without having to hand over your data, but actually doing it based on what is your relationship with that service provider. And the different markets that I mentioned extensively. Combination of GNSS and Earth observation. So now, again, as I mentioned, strong focus on tackling some of the most challenging problematics: environmental friendly, climate change, forestry, maritime industry, and so on. Humanitarian aid and space, obviously. Technologies that you can combine with satellite technology, typically machine learning, deep learning, blockchain. Imagine financial transactions that are stamped with accurate clock based on the satellite data that are processed on your mobile phone, and that is also complemented in decentralized finance application with technologies from blockchain stack, whether we're talking here about Ethereum, Solana, and so on. So basically, decentralized finance is a growing market. And beside the blockchain part, you can also leverage satellite data that you'll plug in and providing even better service to your customers. Quantum technology that is used for quantum machine learning, basically a version of machine learning that is applied for quantum on quantum bits. Quantum bits are the equivalents of the bits, but in the quantum realm. The power of quantum technology is that it's going to demultiply or multiply X times the processing of the current computers that we have. These are completely different architecture, and they will enable, for example, to be used for modeling molecules. The next pandemic vaccine could be used, could be modeled thanks to quantum technology. What will take 1 billion years of computation today with classical computer can take 100 seconds with a quantum computer. It might not solve, for now, the problem of error correction, but it will make the computation faster. The encryption that we are fearing is going to be broken by quantum computers. There are already some quantum algorithms, by the way, that exist. We just don't know that they exist yet because they're often in laboratories or in small number of private companies. But they can already break the most famous algorithm called SHA-256. The good thing, though, is that many new decentralized finance are using modern encryption technology. And these ones are proof of quantum algorithm. But there are so many more applications. You can use quantum technology also in space tech, and that's something that I didn't know before reading it. You can enable communication from the user on Earth to a satellite to be done securely, safely, without the risk of this being deciphered by a quantum algorithm, using something we called quantum key distribution, and so on. IoT, obviously, is one of the most important actors in the space technology hardware segment, because everything is about Internet of Things, connected devices. Agriculture sector use sensors for measuring the level of water and humidity level and pH, temperature on the soil, so that you as a farmer can monitor it at distance and only act when there is a need, receiving a message on your mobile phone. By the way, these technologies are already operating in African countries like Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania. We're talking about it here like if this is new, but this has been already running. And they on top of that receive it on their mobile phone. So if on top of that you add better accuracy, and you complement it also with satellite images, you have a comprehensive service that can be done at lower cost, scalable, and benefiting the people, the society as a whole. And augmented reality, virtual reality, advertisement, marketing based on your location. You pass by a store and you see on your mobile phone information overlaid because it has detected that you're passing by this place. It can be sending, again, pandemic information in a more interactive way. I mean, there are many uses that can be done. It just needs to be identified. What is the pain point that you want to solve, and how using existing technologies complemented with satellite data. There was a quiz, but we won't have time for the quiz. So let's just go straight to the quick question, and then we'll, I think, close it very quickly. If you're lost in the middle of the sea, actually just for the info, for those who wanted maybe to, they can do afterward online quietly, and then I would tell them whether they were right or wrong. But I prepared this at least because I assume that I might be over talking. You're lost at sea, your ship is sinking. What would you do?
See?
Okay.
Sip your drink.
Relax. Galileo search and rescue will find you.
Pray Galileo.
Oh yes, we hope. Oh, of course, I'm not responsible of the consequences if you're at sea and your ship is sinking. But in a hypothetical situation, let's pray that this will be happening. All right. Question number 2. How many enabled Galileo smartphones are there?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I would say 2 billion. No, no. That much?
You like big numbers. That's good.
It's
You're
too
ambitious.
much. No, 10 million.
I know, it sounds okay. So 10 to... Okay.
Yeah, between 10 and 2
and
billion.
2 billion. All right, that's a safe threshold. Okay. And then which of these applications is actually a GNSS enabled? Civil engineering, weather forecasting, financial transactions. I can already give some of these examples earlier. All of the above.
All of the above.
And now you know why financial transactions are also using satellite data. So, again, here are the answers. All right, 2 out of 3. Good response. Good response. Good response as well, because what matters is to participate. And last but not least, to close here, our market trends. Enhanced user experience, connectivity, automation, security and privacy, and sustainability. I think you can find us there. Thanks for being present, first of all. I really appreciate, and thanks for the invitation, Aisha, for discussing space technology, EUSPA, myself, and how we can collaborate. We'll be at Web Summit, unless changes, but that's the plan. And we'll be also at Slush, not that far from here. And we were at Tech Barbecue some weeks ago, and we were at some other events. What we want is really to start connecting the dots and to collaborate with more actors. So we're really looking forward to work with some of you, and maybe to have sustainable long-term collaboration in a way or another. Thank you.